Today, a message is about submitting. And I'm not talking about knockouts. So you have a bunch of places where you can go and fight if you like. I don't know, I used to fight when I was a kid. That ended when we got a little bit bigger and it started to hurt too much. But today we have the UFC, and boxing, of course, has been around for many years. But in those sports, you have what's called a submission. And that's in those combat sport terms for yielding to the opponent and hence resulting in an immediate defeat. The submission then also referred to as a tap out or tapping out is often performed by visibly tapping the floor or the opponent with the hand, or in some cases with the foot, or just by saying the word tap to signal the opponent or the referee of the submission. It means a guy quit. He gave up. He couldn't win. In some combative sports, where boxing, the fighter has a cornerman, and the cornerman can stop the fight by throwing in the towel, usually by literally throwing a towel into the ring, which may count as the submission. Another difference is a technical submission, and they occur when the referee or the doctor steps in, looks at the fighter, and because he has sustained an injury or he's been rendered unconscious while in a submission hold, he can't tap out. An example would be the fighter got his arm broken in an arm bar, or the fighter passed out in a chokehold. In both cases, the fighter is unable to tap out, and the official decides that the fighter cannot safely continue the fight. During such a match, the outcome may be called a technical submission or a technical knockout, also known as a TKO, depending upon the rules of the combat that is used for the match. In the UFC, a technical submission is recorded as a submission, but what does submitting and fighting have to do in our lives? Do we submit to man and God? If you would please turn to Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. And I'm reading from the King James. Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And in Proverbs 16 and verse 2, that's Proverbs 16 and verse 2, all the ways of a man are clean or right in his own eyes, but the Lord weigheth the spirits. What if a ruler, a president, or a boss is the one to whom we are to submit to, and he's an oppressive person? What if he's or she is just incompetent or obtuse? Stupid is the word for that. I didn't like saying the word stupid, so I changed it to obtuse. But anyway, we know better how to do the job, or they are supposed to be doing it. What if the person is sexually immoral or financially greedy? I've worked for a few of those guys who are very greedy. Does God still want us to submit to their rule? What protection do we have in these kinds of circumstances? An abomination, that is. What things people do that are in authority often do evil. They might have a serious character flaw that catch their victims in the effects of their flaws. You just follow along. What is so maddening is that they justify their ways, seeing them as good, and when they turn around and blame the innocent for the evils that occur. For example, the proverb says that all the ways of men are pure in their own eyes. The incompetent man does not think to himself, I'm really dumb, I'm stupid, I'm an idiot, and I shouldn't even have this job. Well, that's the way they don't think. But You have a sexually immoral person who does not see himself as a pervert or perverse, and most prostitutes will say, I'm not doing anything wrong according to God's law, but I have to provide a need and wanted service. If it weren't, I would have no customers and no money to pay my bills. They justify themselves that they are pure in their own eyes. Consider the enemies of Jesus. They felt justified in taking his life on the grounds that he was stirring up the people. No one on earth has ever been more innocent. Yet they justified what they were doing because the people are being stirred up by him. They accused him of being a revolutionary, a threat to the community's stability. If we are in a position like this, under an oppressive ruler or boss who justifies the way he is doing things, and we are suffering the effects of his actions, we feel like powerless pawns being taken advantage of. We feel that they are denying us the liberty to do what is right and honorable. Should we submit or rebel? I'm sure some of us left jobs because of that. To know what to do, we must look at what Jesus did in a similar circumstance. This is not an occasion in which the authority figure demands submission, and in submitting, we must break the law of God. The situation does not involve being forced to sin, but simply submitting to one who is unreasonable and oppressive. If you would, you can turn to John chapter 19 and verse 10. John chapter 19 and verse 10. This is part of Jesus' trial for his life before Pilate, and it occurs after he was beaten, inflicted very severe suffering. Then Pilate said to him, "Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you and the power to release you?" Jesus is unbelievable. We could not choose to do either. Pilate, as we know, is a corrupt official. His record, according to secular history, was not all that good, and the Jews despised him for his harsh ways. If you ever have a chance, look up Pontius Pilate. I don't remember whether it's an autobiography or a biography, but he did mention Jesus in the book that was, I'm pretty sure it was an autobiography, that was written about himself. Very interesting what he said there and what his wife was trying to get him to do. I think she actually believed in Jesus. And here's what Jesus answered him. And he said, "You would have no power at all against me unless it has been given from above. Therefore, the one who delivered me to you has the greater sin." That's John 19, verse 11. His response is very meaningful. It clearly shows his attitude, his approach to every circumstance of his life. Who is Jesus submitting to? Anybody? Good question. There we go. To be in the same frame of mind, we must ask ourselves, do we see God in our life? Is God really part of our life? Is God really running the creation? Is God really sitting at the control of things? Is God really aware of us as individuals? Does God know every hair on our head, that he's numbered it? Are we really the apple of his eye? Are our lives really in his hands? Have we really given to him, or are we looking or holding part of ourselves in reserve, waiting? You could have no power at all against me unless it had been given to you from above. And Jesus saw life very clearly and simply, that God is in charge. Complete control of everything going on in this world, not everything being directed by him in the sense that he is causing it to occur, but that Jesus believed with every fiber of his being that God was with him all the time, everywhere, at every moment. He knew that his life was in his Father's hands. And Pilate could do nothing against him unless God allowed it. If you would, you could turn to Matthew chapter 26. And I got to look it up here. Matthew 26 and verse 53. Jesus could have bowed out. All he had to do was ask. 53. Thinkest thou that I cannot pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? And a legion, I saw many different numbers, but let's figure a legion's about 5,000 soldiers. That's quite a few angels. But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that thus it must be? He wasn't about to give up. Would God have us submit or be faced with submitting to someone who was cruel, hard-hearted, incompetent, sexually imbalanced, perverted, obtuse, or financially greedy? Would he have us live and work under such a person? He put his own son in that position. Everything in Jesus' trial and crucifixion looked as though it was totally stacked against him, and it really was. Carnally, it seems as if we had every right to rebel. He had every right to rebel. He could have replied, "Do you not know to whom you are doing this?" Instead, he says, and I'm paraphrasing, "You would not have the power to do anything except that my Father passed on this. And he is now looking at me to see how I am going to respond. Will I submit to the authority that he has permitted to be over me right now?" Do we see God in our lives like this? We have to begin to look at ourselves differently than the way people in the world look at themselves. We must decide whether we are in God's hand or not. Do we have the faith to trust that we are, and that we are constituted authorities are also in his hand? Do we believe that he is aware of what is going on, and that he deeply cares about what we will do in each situation? He must know what kind of person we are going to make, that we are learning to submit to him, God, if we are going to make it to the end.